Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back again with just some thoughts, on just life, I guess, all this math stuff, and comment a little bit about this exchange I had with Right the Hand. And so, I've been leaning into Tom and Good Servant, quite a bit lately, and so looks like Right the Hand's taking exception to that, which is fine. I'm expressing my opinion. Other people can have their opinion. I think it's the way it is, in YouTube land, truth land, la la land. And, it's, it's like, I basically, I'm kind of like, running my own sort of operation here. Like there's no groupthink anymore. Like I've given up on the flat earth unique solution, all that kind of stuff. I just watch, I guess, from afar and see what happens. I suspect it's going to be more of the same that we've seen already, just flat earthers getting the usual bald earthers on and then dancing with one another. But, I could be wrong. But so, I'm just on my own, and that's great. No place I'd rather be at this point. And so I pretty much expressed everything that, I can for me personally. If other people have other insights, I'd be more than happy to exchange, ideas, offline or whatever about the Bible. But I think that what I presented is what I think the most that I can get from it at this point, especially this kind of late in the game. And so, there's not really that much for me to contribute anymore on top of whatever I think I have 700 and some videos on my channel. That's more than enough. And that's why the timing next week of, I'm pretty much not really doing this anyway. So I've kind of already started this like a week or so ago where, it's going to be like, no Bible studies per se, no prophesying, no anything like that. To me, it's kind of like at the end of a test and everybody closes their books. I close my books and just, wait for the result. And, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if I'm right, I'm right. I could have been right by coincidence, which is also, I'm very aware of that. Just a person who read a book and then figured it out, and it's not necessarily meant for me, but I'm very aware of that possibility. And I think that that's a very real chance that that's true, but I'm hopeful that it wasn't all just a coincidence. But, we had some, exchange back and forth, and, he's getting irritated, rightfully so, about this one point. Because I did mention to him, because I used to communicate with him over Skype. I've just pretty much blocked everybody on Skype. Not that I don't, respect them or anything like that, or I'm angry. I just don't care. Like, I don't know how to say this. Like, it's just like it's just painful for me to like use the energy to type. That's how little energy I have. And then it makes fighting this mass thing also hard because I just don't care. But I'm not recommending that for people. That's just the way life has brought me here. And so I don't have the right answers at all about how to deal with this. But, I sort of get his point, and I think that it's good in this sense, because that's why I don't mind interacting with him, because, he's definitely outlandish, like over the top. But I think that he's consistent. I don't know these people personally, but I would think that a person who puts up the stuff that he does is going to actually follow through on what he's saying and recommending, I guess, for other people. But, I did say, like, I think it was a few weeks ago, like, I'm not going to wear this mask. Like, this is officially ridiculous. I think I just watched some news clipping. I'm like, this is officially absurd. Like, absolutely refuse. And so, and then recently I realized, like, I kind of have to now, just to be able to, like, get food and walk around my apartment complex and play golf. And I mean, that's my whole life. That's literally my entire life. Walking around in my apartment, eating, and then playing golf. And so if I can't do any of those, then they're almost, the food thing obviously is the worst. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't really have a life. I certainly can't sit here and listen to, flat earth debates, which are like, just literally like just a repeat, like Groundhog Day kind of thing. It's just the exact same people saying the exact same things over and over again. And so that's, to me, what hell would actually be. And thankfully this literally is hell according to the Bible. It's just monotony, just, it's like death by boredom, and so knowing that there's, being told really that there's nothing more than that, and that's what we're being fed. So there's really nothing for me to do from a practical perspective. And so the truth community is completely insane. And so, that part, I take that as constructive criticism. He wrote some long messages and stuff. I kind of skimmed some of the longer ones, but, I'll take that. That's fair. I think that that's valid criticism for somebody to I mean, we get on the ballers for flip-flopping the geometry. So I was pretty determined at that point to not wear a mask. But then now, the only other option I guess I would have is just keep making create a list of places where I don't need to have one, and then just only go there, and like I know for sure the only one that I know right now is Wendy's and McDonald's don't require one to go through the drive-through. And so every other place like that I tend to frequent for food, like they do require it. And then even if I order food and then pick it up downstairs at my concierge, then you have to wear a mask. And so I'd have to rely on just drive-through like every day, I guess. And so and then that list the risk is that it would shrink, because like I've said in a past video, Dunkin' Donuts required me to wear a mask just to pick up an iced coffee. And so who knows how quickly Wendy's and all that will follow suit. And I pretty much it has to be, if this thing is going to increase. I saw another video recently, they found another strain of this thing, and it's like, there's like kind of, to me, the way I read that, it's like Revelation 16 is a stress test, a strain on the whole world. And so this strain, to me, they put this stuff, the truth in plain sight. And it's like they have a V-shaped recovery is for vaccine. And then when they say they have a new strain, it means there's more strain going to be put on the world. This is the way God does have a sense of humor. It's not funny, but we have to go through this. But that's the way he does it, and so he's allowing this, however you want to word it, but it's ultimately God doing this. And so, there's just more likelihood of this stuff being required everywhere. And so I refuse that option. And so my only other option would be, I guess, to potentially take my life. And so the reason I don't think that that's the right thing to do, even though if people do that out of principle, I have respect for them. Again, I'm not recommending anyone to do that. But if somebody's that, like, I don't want to sin to honor God, I don't know. That's amazing. Incredible example. That's ultimately what Christ did. He could have like bent and twisted his standards, made a few allies here and there with the Pharisees and all that, and maybe still died but got a lighter sentence, lighter punishment, just negotiated something different, but he didn't. He drank the cup full, and it's incredible. Just that alone, the lead up and the pain, like I can't even imagine, how bad that was. But that's really all I have left. And so the reason I would not recommend people do that, if they have the ability to stay here and function lightly, in this beast system, is that God's return is when God sets the threshold for evil. And so if God doesn't return, you just have to navigate the best you can. And that's what the Bible says, that there's a group on earth called God's elect, that's who God is looking at to decide when to return. And so that's when we all know that God exists. And then up to that point, everybody is just going to do what they can to survive. And it's no different. The reason it's not a mask issue. I want people to understand that, like these people, like Right the Hand, they're all just actors. Everybody's playing their role. When I say somebody's an actor, my role is to be a Bible literalist. And I've realized that people hate that. And so to me, it just kind of fuels me even more down that road. And I feel like I've expressed that fully. There's nothing really else for me to say. The main truths are out there. Like if a person's really into it, they'll know like the earth is flat. That should lead them to Mystery Babylon, and then that should lead them to this place being hell, and that shouldn't be. Those are just natural sequences, of progression. If the earth is flat and stationary, then the whole world's been deceived about ball earth. How could this place not be hell? And then if you believe America is Mystery Babylon, which is obvious in the Bible, they're spreading their philosophies throughout the entire world. That's what the Bible says. And so this place has to be hell. So you don't even, it doesn't really take that much of the verses in the Bible to figure it out. 50-some verses of hell, 2 chapters of Revelation will give you America's Babylon. And then if you just look outside, that these buildings aren't moving. And then that's the Bible, just in a nutshell. So for me, my channel, obviously I go into a bit more details about the 2 witnesses and my attempt to understand the timing in it. But I think everybody knows. Like, I was talking to the starter yesterday at the golf course, and this guy was going off on, he's like, this is a plandemic, 5G. I recommended a book, actually. I got to look up the title. He recommended a book to me. I got to ask him next time I see him. He's like, it'll go through it, and all that kind of stuff. I'll ask him next time I see him, actually, what it is. But Yeah, he just recommended a book to me that goes through all these kind of like, things about 5G and, consolidation of power. He mentioned the mark of the beast. And then these other three guys in my group, at the beginning, they were like, yeah, kind of nodding their head, and like they all just peeled off, and I'm standing there. I'm like, dude, like we got to golf together again, and I'll fill in the blanks for you a little bit. He may not be a flat earther and stuff, but yeah, he was on it. He knew exactly what this was. And, indirectly or directly, maybe just telling me about the Bible and it's us. And so it was just a very good scene because it just shows people just peel away. These are people that really are invested in this world, and they don't want to hear that. And this is people, we're drawn to that. If I could not play golf and just talk to that guy for 4 hours, we'd easily be able to talk for 4 hours. But these other people, like, they don't want to hear that. And so this is the way it is. People are drawn to truth, and people are not drawn to it. And so those three truths that I mentioned, the flat earth, mystery Babylon, and earth being hell, those people are drawn to that because that's what the Bible teaches. And so we might be right, and I think that it's looking more and more like we are right because of the truth community, because they don't care about truth, at all. Like a normal person who becomes a flat earther would want to know why, why was this deception and why is it being uncovered right now? By who? And any normal person would know that that's a worldwide deception, so it requires worldwide coordination, which always involves God. God is involved in the minute details, the hairs on our head. Of course, he did this. Like this is rocket science to these truthers. This is why I did mention that I've had to lie my entire life, and it's true. It's literal in this sense. Where growing up, I had to lie to my parents that I was interested in the Bible. I had to lie that I cared about certain things that I did not. People even ask you how you're doing. You're not doing well. You're lying to them if you say you're okay. Lied like that many, many times. I used to lie that I was going to church, but or going golfing, but I was actually going to church with my friends. And so I had to lie. I had to lie when I was like saying these Hindu prayers, like after I took a shower. That was the routine. So I was lying. Just lies everywhere, and like every kid goes through this, because like people grow up with even stricter parents, and stuff. And so I'm not trying to get pity, but it's just one lie after another, and so, and even throughout my life, I've always felt an uncomfortableness about this world. I couldn't articulate it obviously exactly the way I can right now. Thankfully, the Bible explains it perfectly, but I've never really felt able to like really be connected to somebody in a relationship because, I just never really felt like I was able to be who I was. And that's infinitely magnified now. I'm very thankful that this narrative is like explained now and fully in bloom. So it's perfect. I'm not trying to get pity at all again, but that's what I meant, when I told him over Skype that I've been lying my whole life. And there's a risk that I'm lying still to this day, with even truth, that I'm sharing on this channel. And I'm still very, very aware that, again, I'm very comfortable with my breakdowns because there's not every other person in every other breakdown is stupid. And so if the Bible's true, it pretty much has to be the way I'm sharing it. We just don't know when, and so again, I'm very, very comfortable with what I share, and I only share what I'm comfortable with on my channel. But there's still a risk, very much so. But if the Bible is true, there's zero risk that this place is hell. That's known, and so the cool thing about my situation in life, I would say, is that being this, I would say, invested in the Bible being true, is that if the Bible is true, then this is hell, according to it in a literal sense. 54 verses prove that. And then if it's not, if the Bible's not true, this place is still hell because there's churches everywhere and just everybody's lying. Then why are all these, Christian churches set up? And then that means the Quran would be suspect in the very least. And then all of the Judaism, and so these three major religions of the world are just peddling a lie. And so that's a hell too, because everybody's lost, and so then the atheists are the righteous people, and we know what they're all about, when we go in these debates and stuff. So it's hell either way. This is why this situation for me is such a win-win. It like warms my heart. And then when I get, pushback, clapback from Right the Hand, which again, he's sticking out for his boy, the good servant, who's just completely lost. And so, fair enough. They have their own, they're on they're Bible non-literalists. Bible literalist, Paula, is sneaky because she gives herself a title, Bible literalist, but she's actually very, very non-literal. She will never literally break down, Mystery Babylon. She won't talk about the mark of the beast in any detail. She won't talk about, this being hell, who the Jews are, end times, anything like that in any kind of like serious way. And the judgment, that's necessary. And she will probably not talk about homosexuality because a lot of her people that probably go there are just, sympathetic to that agenda and all that kind of stuff. But she's a non-literalist on every level humanly possible. We'll not go to reincarnation. That's actually what got me blocked from her channel. But reincarnation is a literal fact in the Bible. I'm sorry to break it to people. These non-literalists, they're all just gatekeepers. But anyway, so he fought back with that kind of for that reason, and so that's more hell for me. And so again, I don't care. Like, it's blocked, but everything is winning. Everything is serving the Bible's purpose for me, and I just want other people, if they're into it, know that that's the way it is right now, because the truth community is proving that we're in hell. It's proof. That's all I need. And so it would only scare me at this point if things started turning around, or people started waking up and then presenting good ideas for change. A good idea, for example, for change, two good ones that I just thought of this morning that I've been sort of stressing. One of them is come up with a unique solution, for the flat earth. And then once we have that, I guarantee this, I will promise, I will not be shy to share it at all. Like, it's still, you can prove it without, because we know these buildings are not moving. But for the mathy people around me, I would bring it to them, and we'd have to discuss it, for them to even have a hope of even reaching out to me at all in the future and me responding, that kind of thing. It's almost pretty much like that now, but a lot of us would do that. And so you can't get that because Dearth is too busy trying to sell t-shirts. Jeranism's too busy asking God for a blowjob. Ranty is the only hope that we have, but who knows, whether he's actually interested in a unique test or not. Oakley, obviously not, because his handler is Quantum Eraser. And so we don't really have, Globebusters has proven more for the bald earth side than for us. And so we know that they're actors. So that's out the window. It looks like it's impossible. I've mentioned it many, many times, and I'm just not mentioning it anymore. I don't care anymore. I just want to laugh at this whole thing now. It's my channel will be me more making fun of things going forward, like lightly. I'm not going to do it too often, I don't think, but that's all I can do, to maintain my sanity. And if people want to make fun of me, that's fine too. I don't care. Like, if I'm wrong, I deserve the ridicule. But if I'm right, then it might be better to direct that energy towards the Bible. Just for anybody out there who has half a brain cell, it might be better to, instead of, you could still, maybe you can do both. If you have 10 minutes, maybe spend 2 minutes making fun of T-Mog, but use 8 minutes to go and read, the Bible and then figure out what it's saying, because those things are about to come to pass, like famines coming to America, for example, which should be on the tip of everybody's tongue in the truth community. But instead, it's just every other stupid thing. Durst t-shirts, Mandela effect, we're in a simulation, yada, yada, yada. You're not going to be able to simulate food being made in front of you when it's, restricted, by God. And so unique solutions, one. And the money system, all these people would have to do is get on Ranty. Ranty has a pretty good, faithful following. Is get 100 people in a bunch of different cities to take out their entire bank account or whatever the max is for that day, and then put the money back in the next day, and just do that a few times. And then we could actually collapse the banking system, with the quote truth community with an F, truth. And then that's it. Then there's no issue of a mask now. That's the real issue that's here. It's not the mask. It's once you take the mask off, okay, you might still be able to survive and get food. How are you going to get a job? When they require COVID testing and all that kind of stuff. And then let's say you do even get past that, how are you going to stay in a job? Listening to talking to people who think that this is real and all that kind of stuff. So I want people to know the majority of these people are just actors. They're not like real people who take into account. And it's not really that deep, like how many layers I'm going here. This is just a person who's been in this system, and had to interview and all that kind of stuff. So, and a lot of these people I'm assuming are just government, plants, because they're on all these hangouts, and I'm on all those hangouts because I'm unemployed. And I'm very open about the fact that I'm not interested in this system, at another year or so max. But, those two. And so that's not really that deep. And so if these people really care, and want people to be free and all that, we have to start with money, the money system, because that's what we need to survive. And so this is, again, not that deep. People don't need or not need a mask to stay alive. That's not the issue here. The only reason that this is successful is because the system is integrated and they have control of the money. And so the fact that truthers will never go near this, watch my name just disappear from people. This video will go down in just history, that this whole thing will just stop. But because the two major points that I'm been pushing for, certainly the unique solution, that's I don't even think a lot of people even know what a unique solution is. And so On the baller side, they do, because they know how to talk around it. But the flat earthers are just, a lot of them are just insane, and so they want people to share their Mandela journey, stuff like that, when they apparently are flat earthers and all that kind of stuff. So, those are the two that you will never hear. If you bring that to a hangout, it'll just like you're hearing a pin drop, just, ooh, okay, no. Let's talk about something more neutral. Let's get back to the masks and let's yell at grandmothers. Let's get back to Black Lives Matter, make fun of people, like just do the emotional stuff, not the intelligent stuff like unique solutions or doing what we can to put pressure on the banks. What that would do if a group did that, a large group, doesn't really have to be like millions, but let's say thousands of people, all like, I think I'll have live streaming soon. Let's say we all live stream that together. We all took out, let's say, whatever amount that we have. People have, I'm assuming people don't have a lot of money, but people who do, let's say we could take out whatever the max amount is for that day and live stream it simultaneously. And then we kept putting pressure on the banks. Guess what would happen? They'd have to become more financially responsible because people are asking for their paper money. And so all this, like this fractional reserve multiplier that they're using, they wouldn't be able to do that. And so once they can't do that, then they can't finance different evils like microchips and all these different companies who are financing all these like rioters and all this kind of stuff. And then everybody, all of the stuff would have to then be more responsible, And so once you do that, then you'd have to focus the world economy on things that are necessary for people, like food, basic things like food, living and a little bit of entertainment, that kind of thing. And so a majority of these companies are totally useless. I would almost say all of them. It's possible that definitely in America. And so that's the real strategy. And so God, for people, we know this, that these people can't do that, because then we could make the Bible not come true. And so that's why I know that these people are actors, because they're doing things that like logical people wouldn't do if they wanted real change. And so, I don't have the answers for, if people want to fight, the mass thing, more power to you. I would just say, be careful, because it looks like they're going to get serious with fines and imprisonment and all that kind of stuff. I'm definitely not landing in prison. Absolutely not. I'm already in a prison in my own apartment. So I'm not sitting with the amount of like gays and all that kind of stuff out there. Hell no. I'm sorry. That's what I will recommend for anybody. Don't think that God wants that. He's not telling me to do anything like that, and none of that kind of stuff. I don't even like being around people. That's why this social distancing is not that bad for me. But I'm not sitting in a jail cell or anything like that. I don't care. Like if that means that, I'm not that much faith, or God doesn't love me as much, whatever, and then but I'm not being told to do anything like that, because I'm being told that we're in hell, just here sitting in my comfortable apartment, because anything can happen, the next day. And we've seen that with the different rules that they'll come up with. So don't be a cavalier and think that that's going to do anything. God will laugh at people who do things that are outside of what he wants. All I can tell people is what I'm being instructed is that, we have to tread lightly, because we've been doing it our whole life, and this doesn't mean that, God's giving everybody a license to sin. It means that we all now have to wake up collectively to him and say, we get it. Like we have to sin to stay here. So either we come to you or you come here as a group, and that's why we can't just base it on my own impatience or another person's. It's a collective group. The Bible says it's at least 144,000 men that will be giving up, simultaneously, and God decides. And so, just tread lightly, I would say. A majority, if not all of the truth community, except for a couple people that come by my channel, are not into the Bible, at all. Like, I had an interaction with Right the Hand, and I'm like, what triggered you the most? Like me talking about this being hell, which is obvious, because their job, they're market makers. They need to keep the emotions flowing, because if the emotions stop flowing, what happens? People give up. And then our only option is God. So once those emotions stop flowing, either through the media, through this truth community, through whatever, rah, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Indian Lives Matter, whatever thing that people are pushing, once the emotions stop flowing and you become me or more, there was maybe like an ounce left, with me in the tank, then it's over. What's God gonna do? Just like look down and look at a bunch of people, thousands, millions of people who just don't care, and then they now know this is hell, and like just whatever, just watch them all get like slaughtered worldwide. Like that doesn't make sense. If that were true, then our whole lives were a waste. So I'm not saying it's mine that he's looking at, but collectively, let's say a large group started doing that, and I know that that's happening right now. Just financially, it's happening. much less all these other things. And so that doesn't make sense, you know. And then if that's true, then the Bible's not true. And so it's another win-win, because we're in hell anyway, because we just got slaughtered and we were lied to, and then we got killed. And so by a bunch of evil people. So it's hell either way. So this to me is an incredible win-win for those people out there. I love these things. You know, this just makes everything that I teach sweet, you know, because I'm going to win either way, you know. And I'm not saying win as in I get money or any like recognition, but it's like a hedge for everything that I teach, you know. And so, yeah, we've been lying our whole life, you know, to get jobs, to, you know, not offend these truthers who are just stupid. And so, yeah, there's just lie after lie, you know. And then if you're involved in dating and you're single and stuff, like I was married for a brief time and it was just more lies, you know. Like I was married to a girl who was an evangelical Christian, very, very rooted in, you know, the business of Christianity. Her boss was a very famous, you know, apologist who actually passed away recently. And so I was like more lies, you know, because there are things that I knew about the Bible, even at that time, not flat earth and stuff, that I couldn't share, you know, like just basic things about charity, you know, like why does the Christian church not talk about this enough? Like I was complaining years ago, it's not a new thing. And so that was like rocket science for them. They're like, oh man, like, you know, chill out with that kind of stuff, you know? And like, that's just one of many, many things. Like, and I've heard other people talk about this too, like who are, you know, into like other truths now, like they always felt uncomfortable, you know, in the church. They just couldn't put their finger on it. And so it would just lie after lie. And so, you know, I just have decided to like either null that or like curtail it heavily and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not lying to like avoid another lie and then, you know, make a video to entertain these government agents and stuff. Their job, like I said, they're just emotional market makers. They need to keep the emotions churning, and then Satan still has a kingdom, you know. But once that churning stops with enough people, then it's over. You know, that's the way it is. And if it's close for me, I'm certain that the group of the 144, that's getting filled up every day, you know. And I believe they probably were sealed this year. I can't say that for sure, but the Bible does talk about them being sealed in their mind. And I suspect one of the important things that they're being sealed with is that this is hell. They would know that. Or if you told them that, they would get it. You know, this gentleman yesterday, I wish we could have had a more private conversation. I don't know. You know, he could be one of them. I don't know. You know, he was a quote so-called Negro, but they're everywhere. You know, they could be, you know, your local, you know, starter at the golf course. You know, they could be the person who's homeless. We don't know. Like they're everywhere, and they're going to be of all different nationalities, but they're gonna know certain things for sure. And this guy was very vocal. You know, he was like yelling this like this is on a golf course, and he's a starter, so he works for the golf course. And so I had a lot of respect for him, you know, even though I'm not sure how effective it will be, but I mean, credit to him. You know, maybe I think a lot of these people do that when they're retired or close to retired, as something to do, so he maybe has less to lose than the average person with like a family and stuff like that. But so, you know, I'm not recommending everybody do that, but the word's getting out, you know, and all that kind of stuff, that this system from the beginning has been, you know, handcrafted by the hands of God to be against his will, you know, and his law. And so that's the world that we live in, you know. And so we're definitely not going to turn this around by the leadership that in the truth community, because they're brain dead, you know. They're just dumb. They're just not intelligent, like test taking. They're not smart. And we know that the few that are, they're just like playing a game, you know, and so all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I stand by everything that I say. No one can take a clip of whatever I say and you know, take me even out of context. That what I said is true. Like in that little clip that Right the Hand put on his video, I do genuinely feel like I'm lying all the time. When I get in these hangouts with Ranty and them, I feel like I have to lie and like dumb myself down so I don't offend the religious people. Because they're too stupid to like crack open the Bible and just read a few things. It'll take like a couple hours. And so you have to like play dumb. And so when I say I'm lying, I feel like I'm playing dumb. And to me, it's the same thing. So that's how my brain is able to like function around stupid people or actors, which is what they really are. And so yeah, that holds, you know. And so the rest of the interaction was just, you know, I told him, you know, I respect his passion and stuff, but I'm not doing what he's doing. You know, we're not wired the same. You know, the one comment that I thought was telling really of this whole thing, and not just him, but lots of people, I was telling him about hell. Like, are you aware that, you know, the Bible teaches that this is hell? And he's like, it's just a book, man. You know, I know God. And so that's what he said. And so like, okay. The issue with that is that, you know, this is a good verse. So you know Christ, but what is written in Hebrews 10:7? How can you know the God of the Bible without knowing the Bible? That doesn't make sense. And so Hebrews 10:7 reads, "Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book it is written of me, to do thy will, O God." And so in the volume of the book. And so all the scriptures point to Christ. We even have non-biblical sort of extra canonical scriptures that also reaffirm, Christ and his message. So the Bible certainly does from beginning to end. I've checked. Highly recommend other people double check themselves. Even the Apocrypha does. And so we got a lot of, Jesus lovers, but they don't know anything about Jesus. And so, that doesn't mean that because I've read it and studied and teach it that I have all the answers. I have less answers now about how to navigate through this world. I just don't really have good guidance on that. All I'm being told is that it can't be much longer. It just literally can't be. Even if the Bible wasn't even there, this world is just unstable. People just don't care, and they're being now when I was bored, which is the real underlying issue of all of this, which is why it's not healthy for me to really share much of the Bible after this week. It's just boredom. And so I don't want other people to feel bored just because like I do or anything like that. I'm not trying to convince people to think the way I think in that regard. And so that's the real issue that I feel like I've quote been lying, is that's the real underlying issue that I have, with all of this. It's just boredom. It's like a rat race. You're just studying, getting a test, getting a pat on the back, and just doing that over and over again in school. And then it's just boring. All the corporate jobs that I've had are just boring, flat out. And going on these hangouts are boring, except for the couple interactions I have with people like, TMK and AB and stuff like that. But that's it. And so it's just boring. And so, that's where I also stand true to what I said, that you just feel like you have to lie. Like you have to pretend. I have to pretend like I care and like I want to be here and stuff like that. So, that's where it gets a little dicey for me. Again, I'm not trying to, get people down or whatever and all that kind of stuff. Like, to sort of, validate my own beliefs and all that. So that's why I think this timing is perfect and healthy for me to, whatever I post going forward, it has to be a little bit more lighthearted for myself, because everything on my channel is for me. It's just documenting stuff that I read and then I put it out there, and then I want the response, and then that's the cool thing about the world is you can find out what things are true very, very quickly by saying things that you believe are true, and then finding out how the truth community freaks out, the truth community. And so everything's a win-win. The earth is hell either way, whether the Bible's true or not. Both ways, it's hell. So if a person's into the Bible, and I highly recommend people do, look at that. If you're a flat earther, that's that, and then the mark of the beast, and then Mystery Babylon, and then earth being hell. Those are the natural sequences, and then God opens people's minds to that. And so a person who's not open to that, they're just an actor. They're just a market maker. And the more that they bubble up and buck up against these, like I would say, not really that deep things that I'm sharing, and pointing out that other people are not teaching and stuff like that, then then they're just actors, and stuff like that. And so it just completely destroys, that truth destroys everything, because if this is hell, then the end has to be here, because lots of people would know that, and then they'd want to get somewhere else than here. And so that would require God to return. Then all of Christianity is destroyed, because they think salvation is going to some other, place, avoiding another spiritual dimension of hell. And so that whole promise, that product is destroyed overnight. That business is destroyed, and all that kind of stuff. And so, and you can't unsee that, And so, the only option then is to believe that this hell can be reversed and made better, but the Bible doesn't say that. It said it's actually going to get worse, and it's going to get to the microchip level and then destroyed. And so, then it's doesn't make too much sense to fight with the system, and the mask and all that kind of stuff. Again, do whatever you feel right is right. Hopefully God's leading all of us. But then you wouldn't do that, because this place is just hell and it's not going to change, and it's slated to be burned. And so you would just keep a low profile, which is what I plan to do, and that kind of thing. And so it's a very, very important truth, and they know it. They know that. They'll allow the flat earth. They may allow a little bit of Mystery Babylon, but not that. The truth community is negotiating on behalf of Satan, God's left-hand side. And so once you kind of stretch them and force them to say Mystery Babylon's America, they get uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable for Good Servant and Tom to say that. Even do a full hangout on that would be impossible to get them to do that. They'll do that, but then they'll go through a list of 9 other options, just to make it digestible for people like Ken Hovind does. And then certainly not this realm being hell, because that explains everything. Then it's like, it's not going to change. Hell doesn't like become better over time. Hell would be a day and night, which is the way it's described. Whenever it talks about everlasting destruction with hell, people read that as eternal, but it always will say day and night. And so it's a day and night, and then so that always refers to the earth, the physical earth, because even in the kingdom, there is no like sun and moon, there's no notion of that. And so every reference to it refers to this, this reality, the earth realm, the physical realm, with the sun and the moon and all that kind of stuff, dictating the days. And so it's devastating, and I love it because it's true either way. So that I'm comfortable with 100%, that like I've said, if the Bible's true, then we're in hell. And if the Bible is not true, we're also in hell. So that truth, for example, for me is just giving me a lot of comfort these days when I teach, because if that's the sort of epitome, the crescendo that's, I'm led up to teach and share more directly and explicitly in the last little while, it's true either way. So hope everyone's doing well. Bye.